When you think about a prison, I'm sure you don't think about a skyscraper and big corporations. But maybe you should. There are a lot of prisons in this country that are funded by these big corporations. And today we're going to try to convince you the reasoning why we need to defund these programs and remove them from our criminal justice system. First, we're going to establish the difference between a private and a state-ran prison. A state prison has specific standards they must follow, and they are funded by our tax money. In the state of Ohio, we have the ODRC, which sets forth all regulations that must be maintained by these facilities for the safe treatment and rehabilitation of these offenders. Private prisons are owned by businesses, corporations, or people, and they profit by how many inmates are actually incarcerated by them. These prisons were started in the 1980s in this country, and we have seen a 1,600% increase from 1990 to 2005, according to the Justice Education Project. These were originally created, they were supposed to be cost effective and help with the issues that we were having in the ODRC. But there are some problematic things about these. One of the biggest concerns is a lack of information. In the state prisons, they have mandates to report things that happen. They have to tell us how many inmates are in their facility. They have to tell us how the facilities are being ran, and most importantly, where the money that is being sent to them is being spent. There are many standards that institutions must maintain to stay open and to be accredited through the ODRC. Private prisons do not have to report any of this information, and because of this, we have limited information of what is going on behind these walls. We don't know much about the inmate treatment or their day-to-day operations. I worked for a private prison for 3 years, and I'm going to explain a little bit of what I saw there as well. Another issue that we see a lot in these private prisons is they're all about the bottom line. They have less programs, lower quality food. There's overcrowding, limited health care, less trained and lower paid staff. I can attest to all of these things. While working in the private prison, we regularly ran with bare minimum and sometimes not even state minimum staff. There would be 2,800 inmates and only 25 officers to run the facility. We would have one officer in a housing unit to 225 inmates. I saw inmates who had to wait for weeks to receive health care because we did not have enough doctors to see them all. I saw food that was not able to be eaten. And the programming for rehabilitation was almost non-existent. In a job that is partially rehabilitation, it was hard for me to work in this environment. I did not feel as if the inmates were receiving proper treatment, and if the job of treating them to return them to the streets was being done. With all those issues that they had, this brings us to the last major point I would like to make. In this environment that they've created, with less trained staff, overcrowding, no programs for inmates, this creates a very dangerous environment. I personally was assaulted 3 times in 3 years from inmates, serious assaults, and none of these were reported to the state. No charges were ever pressed, and according to public record, none of these things ever happened. This creates such a volatile and unsafe environment, not just for officers, but also for the people who are incarcerated. In contrast, while working at a state-ran facility, I was never assaulted. I was never made to go into a situation with less staff than necessary. And inmates had all the required necessities. So these private prisons are not only not telling us what they are doing, they are not taking care of the offenders who are incarcerated, who are people's loved ones, who are people. they also are putting their own employees at risk every day by not providing what is needed to take care of everyone. And for these reasons, they have no place in our criminal justice system. They need to be eliminated, and we need to make the focus back onto our state-regulated institutions. There we can give our offenders what they actually need and keep the people who dedicate their lives to these offenders safe. Because right now, that is not happening. Thank you.